TSPN is happy to bring you Foothill Critters, a show for and about local pets, farm animals, and wildlife of our Foothill community. This program is brought to you in part by the, hey Tom, you should do this part.
By the Feed Barn Country Store, locally owned and operated for more than 30 years. By Jeff Home and Auto Center, a name you can trust for 28 years and growing. And by Sierra Hearth and Home, your certified specialists for water gardens, ponds, and waterfalls.
Hi, I'm in our county, and welcome to Foothill Critters. We have traveled to the Valley Springs area to Rick and Pam Brady's home and ranch, and it is called the Oak Valley Alpaca Ranch. Nice to meet you both.
Good to meet you.
Thank you. Gorgeous day, great breeze. Here it was 100 yesterday maybe. Today it's beautiful here.
Yes, we get a breeze that comes up from the delta. It comes up Highway 1288, and so that's why it's usually nice and breezy here.
It's gorgeous. Now let's talk. First of all, you've got you're raising alpaca. It wasn't really something you started out doing years and years ago. Tell me a little bit about your life before this and what you did, and then how long you've been doing this.
Well, I worked in high-tech electronics, telecom, and data storage systems in Silicon Valley for years and years and years. And, you know, I hit my mid-50s, and when the telecom thing did the bust, I blew up also. And I found that, well, I tried to find work again. Being in my mid-50s made it a little bit more difficult. So, you know, we kind of looked at our options at the time. We had a little bit of money in the bank, and we thought, well, let's do something different. And we weren't quite sure what we were going to do, but we knew that we had a second home up in the Arnold area for 20-some years, and so we were a little familiar with the area, and we thought, well, wouldn't it be nice to do something up here? We had no idea what we were going to do, but the jobs...
Get away from the rat race.
Yeah, we wanted to step off
communication.
We wanted to step off the Silicon Valley treadmill a little bit, and Pam had been working for a manufacturing company in Hayward. So we were both, you know, kind of ripe for a change in our lives, and a little sooner than we thought it would be, but yeah, it was an interesting transition. We had originally seen alpacas in Peru. Our daughter was a Peace Corps volunteer in Bolivia, and so we'd gone down and to visit her while she was down there, and we did the trek over, not physically, but we took the train trip over the Andes from Lake Titicaca and up into Puno and then on to Cusco, and we actually saw just vast herds of alpacas in the high Andes, and we're talking 12 to 14,000 foot elevation. So at that point, we had no idea we were going to do this, and it was just interesting. And our daughter took it to a couple of alpaca shops in Bolivia where she was stationed, and it became just interesting to us. And we did a little bit of research on it and followed up a little bit. And frankly, I have to tell you that we really didn't. We weren't really serious about it until shortly after our trip. I was in my transition phase from my previous life in Silicon Valley, and we got home, and we just happened to be at our cabin one weekend, and we picked up a copy of the Sierra Sentinel, I think it was, and there was an article in there about a Wallace family who had gotten some alpacas, and we kind of went,
for 4-H.
Well, for 4-H, yeah, and we kind of figured that was something that would be interesting. You know, they weren't, like most alpaca breeders, we had absolutely no previous experience with livestock. Dogs, cats, fish was pretty much it. And so we did a little research, and we kind of realized that they weren't difficult animals to raise. They were not physically intimidating in size like horses or cattle. And with our previous lack of experience, we were somewhat interested. And so we kind of started visiting some alpaca ranches and doing some research. And at the time, the price of alpacas were pretty intimidating. Back in, we started in about 2003. and the prices of a pregnant female at the time was, $14,000-$15,000 each. So we kind of thought, well, we could get a couple, 3 maybe, and we started doing some due diligence and visiting some ranches and kind of getting our feet wet, and finally decided to buy our first 3 alpacas. Well, I guess first we decided first to try to find property that that would be suitable for it.
So you found this place here?
Yes. My parents at the time were living in Angels Camp, and they were getting older, and so we realized that we needed to move closer to them to be of help to them. And so that's why we were looking in Calaveras County, and we knew the county because of having the summer home up in Arnold, and we liked the pace up here, the no stoplights.
Really? So what year was that you actually bought and purchased your first animal?
We bought our first animals in late 2003.
Okay. Yeah.
So.
All right. Tommy is showing some of the alpacas. You've got lots of different looking ones, and maybe it's just how they're clipped.
Yeah. There's as we walk around, I'll show you some.
Why don't we walk over here if we could? Well, what are we looking at over there?
Well, the alpacas, they like anything green. They're pretty non-selective about what they eat, and the tree that we like to plant for shade for the animals is fruitless mulberry trees. They're fast growing and very palatable to the alpacas, and so they'll eat the ones they can reach and the leaves they can reach, and so you'll notice the trees tend to be kind of trimmed up a little bit, but when we first put trees in, we have to protect them a little bit. But
like those with those little fences.
Yeah. But generally, one of the reasons we picked the fruitless mulberries is that it was non-toxic. They could eat as much of them as they wanted, and one of our vets told us years ago that if you present fruitless mulberry leaves to an alpaca, and if it doesn't eat it, the alpaca is probably pretty sick.
Oh, wow. These are just beautiful animals. You have them show. Thank you.
Well, we shear them, and then after they're sheared, they're shorn.
Shorn. Oh, shorn. Okay, so they're shorn in different ways. Is that for show?
Well, yes and no. When we shear, typically animals that still have a show career ahead of them, or are studly herd sires or males, or breeding males. Typically, we leave the hair on their legs a little longer. It's called stovepiping when we shear, and that just makes them look a little bit better. We typically don't shear too much off their heads, rarely shear their top knots unless they get really impacted with a lot of debris.
Now there's 2 here. Well, what's their relationship?
They're just 2 males. This pen is all males of various ages. Those 2 that we're looking at, the brown one and the white one, are both Suri alpacas, and but they're herd animals. They play a lot with each other up into the age that they become breeders or of breeding age, and then they sort of fall into this herd dominance kind of thing, where 1 or 2 of the alpacas want to be the top guys on the totem pole. So we have to be careful of that a little bit once they start to fight. These guys are just playing. They're just kind of hanging out and playing with each other.
Now, can we go in here, or are they tame enough to? Will they come to you?
Well, probably not.
And the camera might keep them away as well?
They're just a very shy animal. They're curious, so they'll look at you, but as soon as you reach out to touch them, they're going to back away.
Okay.
So,
Some of them will come up to you, and some of them will smell your hand, and we have some that'll eat grain and pellets out of our hands. We kind of train them to do that.
So how do you gather them up to take care of them?
Well, when I want them to come, then we're basically set up with fairly large pens that feed into small catch pens, and so what I do is just take some grain in a bucket, and they'll come running. because they really like it, and so
They know the
and
sound
I
of
can
the
I can
rain.
actually do that for you.
Now you have a pretty large dog over here to the right.
Yeah.
That's a Samoyed. What is it?
No,
What kind of dog is it?
that's a Great Pyrenees.
Oh, that's
And Great Pyrenees have been bred to be livestock guardian dogs, and obviously they were bred in the Pyrenees Mountains and in I guess between France and Spain. But they're just naturally protective of livestock.
And how about maybe other predators around here that could hop the fence?
Well, we haven't had anything hop the fence. Obviously, in this part of California, there's coyotes. There's also mountain lions, and we've never had a problem with either one of them. We do occasionally see a coyote on the road, or we'll see a coyote along the fence line up back of the property. But they stay fairly far away from the fence line. The dogs, I think, defecate along the fence lines, and so that it just makes it sort of a barrier. I think the coyotes look at it, and if it's not easy for them, they'll go up the street and try to pick off something else. But we've never had a problem. Probably the bigger problem would be a mountain lion, and I'm told there are mountain lions around. We haven't ever seen one, and it's the same thing. I think the mountain lions, if they were to see something like that, they would realize there's dogs here, and it just isn't worth it for them. However, if a mountain lion wanted to take an alpaca, it would be pretty simple because they could easily jump the fences. They could climb up in a tree and jump from the tree in the pen. And I worry about it a little bit, particularly with the babies and the young alpacas that are fairly small, where a mountain lion could hop the fence, take an alpaca baby, and hop back over the fence and be gone. So,
Okay, we'll continue with more after this break.
Legacina is our herd matriarch. She's the oldest in the herd right now. She's about 14 years old. It's one of our first alpacas we bought, and she comes from a very, very famous sire. He's one of the most highest priced selling alpacas ever. So he actually sold for a little over $1 million when he sold a few years ago.
Mike, can you put
But you can see the animals are curious, and then they lose interest real fast.
So, what would make that animal worth so much? Was
Well,
it the show, the way it could be shown, or just?
Well, it's like anything. People that have enough money to spend a lot of money on things will look at an animal and say, I have to have that animal. It's the same thing you see with horse breeding and things like that. Now these animals in this pen, this little brown male here, his name is Jackson, and he belongs to his mom is over here eating, I think. He belongs to another ranch. He's just here while his mom's being bred. And the other two, okay.
So if I had a couple of these and I wanted to keep them someplace because I couldn't maybe on my property, could I bring them here and then pay you to
Yes,
board
yeah.
them?
We actually have a very active boarding in the agriculture business called a gisting business. Probably 2/3 of the animals on our ranch belong to other people. We have, I think we currently have 6 different people that we gist or board for. And it's not something which we originally thought we would want to do, but in this economy, it's actually a nice steady cash flow of money. So
So do those people that have them, do they share their own, or do you share them, or is it whatever relationship you make with them?
Yeah, I mean, basically the people that board with us, I mean, we have responsibility for complete care of the animals. So they will certainly give us feedback as to how they would want their animals shorn, but we typically shear the animals once a year. That's usually the first or second weekend in May. And they're welcome to come and help us. if they'd like to, during shearing. It's a big weekend when we're shearing.
You do all these animals in one weekend?
Yeah. It's usually a 2-day weekend. I hire a professional shearer to do it. I don't.
They have the most unique faces and with different personalities.
Yeah, they are, and some of them are very standoffish. Some of them are more approachable.
The way they look at us, it feels kind of human-like.
Yeah. Well, they're
kind of get what I'm saying.
Yeah, I understand. They're very curious. They'll, if I'm out working or my son and I are out working on the ranch someplace, they'll come and watch us for a while, and then they get bored.
I noticed that some of them, their teeth on the bottom are more further out. Is that as they age, or?
Well, yeah, it's kind of a unique thing that for domesticated animals in the high Andes, I'm told they rarely have problems with their teeth growing. They have teeth on the bottom and a hard palate on the top. Oh. And if because they eat hay here, and as opposed to forage, then they tend to their teeth tend to grow a little bit. So we're always kind of watching their teeth and trimming them as necessary. It's not a difficult thing to do, but I typically have the vet trim teeth for me because the vet sedates them a little bit.
The way you keep the hair on the what do we call it? Fur, hair?
It's called fleece.
Fleece, that's right.
And the top of the head is called the top knot. And we usually trim them pretty close, kind of like what this girl here has over here. This year during shearing, because we had so many animals, we did not trim top knots, so we need to run through the herd.
It's interesting how some go up. It looks like they've had hairdressers. You know what I'm getting at, don't you?
Some of them look like we call it the Don King look, where they have this hair just sticking straight up, and then others, like Ruby over there, the black one you were looking at, hers just kind of flows down.
And then the smaller white one has
that one's a Suri, and the Suri. Yes, you can see these two babies over here are Suris, and they were not shorn this year, and so their fur looks very much dreadlocky, and that's the way it hangs down. With a little.
I'm looking now, the entire body.
Right, and then Jackson, who's a little Huacaya, the little brown baby, he's a Huacaya, and he's all puffy. You might have seen that some people call it the teddy bear look, and he's the youngest one here right now, I think. He belongs to another ranch, and his mom is here for breeding. So of course we had to bring the baby because he's still milking.
Okay, right.
And we don't wean the babies until they're 6 months old.
So what are they eating back there?
Well, we give them a good orchard grass hay when we can get. We usually try to buy the best we can. Right now it's kind of a bad time. It's sort of the end of the year for the good stuff and the beginning of the year for the new crop. And the new crop of orchard grass, we call it first cut, is not really what we like to use because it's got a lot of seed heads in it and things, and it can just kind of messy. It's coarser. Second cut orchard grass, third cut orchard grass is really the best.
What are some of the diseases that these animals get that you have to ward off or prevent?
It's pretty much standard things that you would see for goats or sheep or anything. We worm them twice a year for parasites. We sometimes, a couple times a year, we'll put a top dressing on them. For skin-borne things, but for a while, West Nile was a real concern. There were a lot of alpacas back in Colorado that got really sick with West Nile, and so we were doing the whole herd every year for West Nile disease, and that got to be pretty expensive. And so when West Nile turned out not to be a big issue for alpacas, we've sort of backed away on that a little bit. But we use the same medication that would be used for horses to treat the alpacas.
Let's talk real quick. How do you transport these animals? Let's say you're going to Go to a show. You do show these animals.
Well, we have a livestock trailer. It's basically a 2-horse slant load trailer, and when we halter train the animals, we teach them to lead on a halter and walk, because we need to do that in the show ring. But we also teach them to jump in and out of the trailer. So it's pretty easy. Some animals take to it a little bit better than others, but generally speaking, that's pretty much how we transport them. Some people will transport them in vans, things like that. They'll put ramps and load the animals, but.
Okay, we're going to head to another area because I notice you've got more areas over there. Your ranch is set up so beautifully. You really designed this well. Was it something that you learned, or something you just came up with, or how does
it was purposefully done? Beautiful. We wanted all of the males out in front because if there were a problem with dogs, the males are stronger than the females. The females are generally always pregnant, so we wanted them more protected. So the females and all the babies are all in the back. So we have separate pens for different ages.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. You say pregnant. What's the gestation? How many babies can they have a year?
Only one. Okay. Gestation is 345 days, really? Which is 11 and a half months.
Wow.
And so they have one baby a year. They can be rebred within 3 weeks of giving birth. So sometimes during the year, they're feeding a baby that they've just had with milk, and then they're also growing a baby in their stomach. So they're doing double duty. They're happiest when they're pregnant.
Many of us are.
Yeah.
But the adult females pretty much spend their entire adult life pregnant.
Yeah.
Just if you have an active breeding program, and
which you certainly do.
Well, we do, but we also again, in the assist economy, we've been more careful about who we breed and how often. So.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to wrap up this section of Foothill Critters, and we're going to find out more about the different types, and the more information you have, you're a wealth of knowledge. So stay with us for the third segment of Foothill Critters. What I'm so impressed with, we've been to several ranches, and just the organization and the quality of fencing you've used, it just seems so doable and usable and attractive.
Well, yeah, when we first were visiting a lot of alpaca ranches to look at animals and learn about alpacas, of course we talked to a lot of people about how to do certain things, but one of the things we always saw that was important was the ability to move animals around from one pen to another, and to have shelters scattered about the property. And so as we grew the ranch, because we started off with just 2 pens and a couple of shelters, and then we added, we did more fencing. Our property didn't have a foot of fencing when we moved on. So as our herd grew and we needed more space, and then we built the barn and some other stuff. But we always thought to ourselves, how are we going to move animals from one spot to the other? And so we tried to build it with corridors, with catch pens, so we could entice animals into the catch pens and then move them. Sometimes we have a group of animals that there'll be 8 or 10 or 12 or 14 animals in a group, and we'll want to pick out 1 or 2 of them to take to a show or to see the vet or to whatever. So we bring them into a catch pen. We can then separate them in there easily, and then we can run them down the corridor. So we can move animals around without having to halter them up.
Right. I really like the way you wrapped it around your home. It just feels it's a good distance, but not, and it feels like it's just right there for you to enjoy. Yes. And service as well.
We have a lot of chairs and benches scattered kind of all over the property. You can see some there under the oak tree. There's some over there under that. Those trees there for watching. That's where the animals usually give birth. We have a bench out here, it's over there. We come out and watch the sunset and have a glass of wine with the alpacas, and they know us and we know them, and they'll walk up to us and look at us and then just walk away.
You really do feel the Delta breeze, and you're sitting here kind of on a very, pretty level, flat area, and yet you're kind of secluded from the backside. It's just a marvelous setting.
Thank you.
When we purchased the land, the house was here. It was that was the only thing on the property, but we chose it for the suitability of being able to use the whole acreage as opposed to having areas that were just not appropriate. So.
And who do you have in here? These are all obviously they're different colors, but I'm not sure if they're.
This group of animals are our not all out, but they are the adult females by and large. There are a few yearling females. This little brown girl here is. She's about a year old now, maybe.
This little one on the left here.
Yeah, her name is Reagan, and she's about a year old. But most of these girls in here are currently either pregnant or ready to be pregnant. Some of them are boarded animals, and if their owners don't choose to breed them, then they don't get bred. So.
They have nice accommodations in here. I mean, this is, to me, this is the penthouse, wouldn't you say?
This is really because of all the shade from the oak trees. Yeah. This is really, I really wish we had more oak trees for shade, but we accommodate as necessary. Right. So.
What are some of the ones that have personalities that really stand out in your mind?
Well, they're all a little bit different. It's funny, they'll be very standoffish, and then when you put a halter on them, they'll calm right down, and you can move them around. It's kind of fun. The younger ones will tend to be a little more playful and a little more curious. The older ones will be a little bit more standoffish. This girl here that's standing right in front of us, that's Asana. She was one of our very first babies that was born here, and she's been just an outstanding female for us. Has produced some champion males and actually a national champion female cria.
So when you show these, do you show them or does he show them?
Rick usually goes into the ring. He does all this.
So when you're in the ring, what sort of performance do you have to? What do you show them?
Yeah, these are fleece-producing animals, and so their reason for being is to harvest their fleece off them every year, and so the things that the judges look for are the consistency of the fleece across the animal's blanket, which is really the from the front shoulders to the back hips and about 2/3 of the way down their bellies. They'll look for the coverage down their legs, and they'll look for coverage up their necks, and so basically the length of the staple, the fineness of the fiber, and of course the fineness will vary depending on the age, but some animals will carry fineness well into their life. And so there's lots of factors like that, but basically, and then there's of course more of the physical attributes like how they walk and how their teeth is. If they have a real bad bite, that's something that you're downgraded for. We had an animal at a show here in Pleasanton a couple months ago that was a champion last year, and she would have been a champion this year, the judge told us. But she was down a little bit on one of her back pasterns. We don't know if it was because of an injury or what, but because of that, she was the highest she was placed was the second place. But had all the other qualities to be a champion. And so it's.
So I notice there's another dog in here. How many dogs do you have on site?
We have 3.
3, okay, so I'm not seeing the same dog. No. It just is in a different pen.
Well, we have 3. We have a male that's out in the front right now. We pinned him up a little bit because he can be a little unpredictable around strangers. Okay. We have the female that was just barking at us a few minutes ago because she's not a threat to anybody, but she's a little standoffish. And then we have our geriatric dog, male. He's a great peer, our very first peer that we got. That's now about we think, about 12 and a half or 13 years old, which is really nearing the end of his lifespan. So he just finds a place, curls up, and goes to sleep.
Okay, and we've got another pen over here. Let's go there, check that out, and then we'll talk more about the products that you have and what it takes to take them to market, so to speak.
He's our old guy.
That's your old guy. Yeah, he looks. Oh. But he can still protect.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
he does. He, if there's a threat, he goes to the fence, just like he was a young puppy.
The alpacas will make a loud bleeding sound as a warning. So if they see anything that's abnormal, if they see a coyote, they see a strange neighborhood dog, wild turkey, they'll make a warning sound. And that warning sound will immediately attract the dogs. So dogs, as soon as they hear it, the dogs will leave that gate open. The dogs will come running. So.
And who do we have in here? What makes these different?
This pen here is all Suri alpacas. Everybody in this pen are Suris. All the alpacas are Suris. And the difference between Suris and Huacayas, they're both part of the South American camelid family. It's just that their fleece is a little bit different. If you look at this little girl here, you'll see that the fleece kind of hangs down in locks, and that's very typical of all of them. It's hard to tell right now because we just sheared these animals a couple months ago, so their locks hasn't grown out. But as you see them, you can envision the adults having the very same type of fleece structure. And
well, the ones that the show ones that we were just looking at, those females, they look so much better quality fleece.
well,
or is it just different?
It's different. It's different. The fleece from the Suri alpacas, this group, tends to be a little shinier and has a little more luster to it. It's called. That's what they call it, a little luster. And there's always a gentle rivalry between people that raise Huacayas and people that raise Suris. And often there are people that raise both of them. So this group here is part of a pretty large herd that came to us recently from Southern California. They've sort of been dribbling in. We have all of them now, but about 3 or 4 of them, I think.
Now these seem to be friendly. These seem to gravitate towards us. Is there a reason for that? Were these used in a different way?
No. It could be just their nature, a little bit. I don't know. In the whole group, it's all. Some of them are certainly more personable than others, and.
I'm looking forward to finding out more about how you use the fleece and what you do with that. Oh, these are all little guys.
Yeah, these are our current crop of weanlings. So these girls and boys in this pen are these girls and boys in this pen are all less than a year old and more than 6 months. So they're probably all about 10 to 11 months old at this point. These were probably fall cria from last fall. So some of them have been to shows. No, these have not been to shows yet. Yeah.
Now, when one chooses to lay down like that little one over there, is something wrong, or just enjoying the moment?
It's just enjoying the moment. Yeah, they like to lay in the sun. You'll see them a lot laying with their bellies toward the sun. And it's a little male. That's Kellen over there that's laying there, and he's just very content. And
I'd be content here too.
We can walk in there if you'd like.
Okay. All right, we've got 2 minutes on this segment, and then we'll see some of that fleece. Is there any way you could hold one?
Sure.
Like maybe this one that has the... Or maybe not. Let's see what happens here. So you're really enjoying this, aren't you? And we can approach, okay?
Oh, yeah. This is This is Colleen. She's a little female. One of our.
It's so thick. Oh, it's very dense and beautiful. Nothing like a dog.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really different. And this is what we pay good money for, huh?
Typically with the alpacas too, once you catch them like this and kind of hold them around their neck, they'll stop. They'll stop fighting, and these guys have not been halter trained yet, so they'll be halter trained here starting. I'm planning to take a couple of these animals to a show in the fall. And
so how many would you take to the show?
I usually take at least 3 or 4, and sometimes as many as 8, depending on how many I've got, how many quality. And I'm pretty selective about what I take. If I think the animals are average, I won't bother to show them. But the nice thing about these alpacas, or about any alpacas, is you can breed them up. If you have an animal that has not as much density that you'd like to see, you breed her to a dam or to a male that has excellent density.
Okay, well, thank you so much, and wow, just beautiful. All right, let's take off and go see the barn because you've got some fleece to look at over there. These are some of the finished products that these people have created. Just absolutely wonderful. And here's the raw material. So let's talk about some of the finished products, but how you kind of got into actually weaving as well as raising these animals.
Well, once we had alpacas for a few years, we early on sent some fiber off for processing to have yarn made, and we've sold that around various places, some yarn shops and some other things. But as we progressed in the business and we got more and more comfortable with using the fiber, then we got more interested in actually personally being involved in some of the development. Pam, a couple of years ago, started spinning. She's learned to spin very, very well and creates hand-spun fiber. And then I got kind of interested in weaving, and so I had a small loom that I bought actually several years ago but hadn't used much, and started using that. And then about a year and a half ago, I bought a fairly large floor loom that's certainly big enough to do things up to the size of blankets and things like that. And so I've been weaving on that as well.
When you first started out, you weren't really expecting to make products like this.
No. We when we first started out, our intent was to have alpaca babies and sell those babies and make lots of money.
And when you first started back in '03, they were selling for
they were selling for, a pregnant female would routinely sell from anywhere from $9,000 or $10,000 up to $20,000. In fact, we had one of our young females, a 6-month-old female, that we took to the national show that somebody bought from us at the show for $30,000. So you could
you envisioned recouping your initial investment quickly.
Right, and we did. We did sell a lot of animals for those kinds of pricing, but when the economy kind of took a turn a few years ago, it became really apparent that if you wanted to stay in the alpaca business, you had to look for other ways to generate income. And adjusting or boarding was one of them, but also becoming more vertically integrated with the fiber itself. And so selling, having fiber prepared for spinners, and having fiber made into yarn, and then making some product became really important. And we saw that with other alpaca breeders that would actually have a weekend sale, and they would generate $3,000 or $4,000 in sales over the course of a weekend, of an open ranch weekend. So
I imagine going to these, and you're going to be heading to one this weekend, going to these shows gives you an opportunity to network with other people, find out just what you found out about how in this economy and other ways to implement new ideas to create more income. But another way you network with these people, you learn so much, and it's camaraderie and everything like that, correct?
Oh yeah, of course. Okay. Pam, we started dyeing fiber here a couple years ago, and Pam will set up a fiber dye day, and we'll invite friends to come in and dye fiber with us. And
how neat. So you're part of the local spinners and weavers?
Yes, I belong to the Mother Lode Weavers and Spinners. They're, we meet in Columbia, but they're Tuolumne and Calaveras County.
Okay,
And
is it different for Amador County?
there is a group of
The Oro Madre?
Yes,
Del
Del
Oro.
Oro. They're
Okay.
Del Oro, and they're up in Jackson, or
Okay.
they meet in
Sutter Creek.
Sutter Creek. Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the fiber itself that you have, kind of the process and what you're taking to market, actually.
Sure. Well, what we have here on the table, this is just a blanket of an alpaca right off the alpaca. We just opened a bag this morning for you to see, and so this is typically the way that we would send it to market, or send it to either sell it as raw fiber, or we would send it to a mill for processing. We kind of go through the blanket, and this is called, what it's sitting on is called a skirting table, and we kind of just skirt out any debris or any what we call vegetable matter that's in the fleece, but pretty much the mill will then take care of getting it all cleaned up after that.
Wow. And then it goes to this mill.
A mini mill.
Mini mill, and what happens there?
Some of the product that I have made these are called pencil rovings, and they're pencil roving bumps.
So
and
they made this to your specification.
Yeah, they washed it, they carded it, and then they made it into this roving, and then a hand spinner will take this roving and spin it into yarn. And
we keep track of what animals this comes off of.
Right, so we know each one. This is a combination of Alana and Asana. And
so how much is in here? I mean, is it by the length or the weight?
It's the length and weight. This is 9.7 ounces, 122 yards, and it's this bump is $38.80.
Okay.
And they're all done by weight. So we've got some browns. I think these are Vapors.
And
this is Aiden.
spin.
Yeah, this is ready for a
Into
hand spin.
something like this.
Yeah, these are yarns. Here, go down to the next layer.
I'll let you get in there, because this is you love this stuff, I can tell. And we don't want to mess with it wrong. It's just beautiful. I love these. This is natural, huh? The two-tone.
Yes, these are
smart.
mostly all natural. This is Royal Baby Alpaca yarn. It's Tara and Christian, and I have the name of each animal on each tag. And
How
they're
sweet is that? I guess
they're
when you make a gift for a
10
baby.
yards. Yeah, these are
May
some
I
of
just
the
look
ones
at this?
that,
It's
that
just
I dyed.
Gorgeous.
These are some of the different colors that are
So
dyed.
people knit with this, or they weave
Yes.
with this?
Well, both.
Okay.
They can do either one.
Primarily, though, I think that people buy the yarn. It's pretty rare when we sell, 10 skeins or 15 skeins of a certain color because of the price. I think a lot of times because alpaca yarn tends to be more expensive than the yarn you're going to buy at the local yarn stores. So,
This yarn we blended with silk, and so it's real soft.
Oh my gosh. So we've just got a few more minutes. What if there's viewers out there that would like to purchase some of this? Do you only do this at shows, or is there a place that you market it in the foothills here in Calaveras or Amador County?
In the fall, we're going to be at the Amador Quilt Show that's held over at the fairgrounds in Sonora. That's in, I think, late September.
Okay.
And then in October, we'll be at Columbia holds a thing called Fiber Festival.
Okay.
Or just Festival. It's called Festival,
Okay.
and it's a kind of a street fair thing in Columbia. So we'll be at both of those boutiques. And then people can call me. They can call me on the phone, or
And what's that number they can call you?
it's area code 209-772-3906, or they can get in touch with me. They can send an email through the website, or or our direct email is brady-ova@att.net.
Okay,
And they
perfect.
can
Okay, well, if you need more information on that, you can call the station. And Rick, I just want to thank you, and thank you so much for this great tour. I feel like I've met some great little animals, and I appreciate you sharing your grounds with us and all that you do, and I love how you've adapted to the times.
Well, it's been a lot of fun. It's been an interesting ride for us. I will tell you that when I was working in Silicon Valley, if somebody would have told me that a few years later I'd be raising alpacas and doing all the things that comes along with raising alpacas, I would have told them they were absolutely crazy. But we enjoy it. It's a huge part of our life, and we've met so many wonderful friends through this business, and you know, we would never go back if we.
I can just imagine. Oh, there's 2 oak critters I didn't even notice over here. As we wrap up, let's tell the viewers, if they're interested in finding out more information, can they just give you a call if they have a question, if they have one, if they're interested in getting one, if they're interested in breeding, or they want to see a tour, or they want to board here? I would give this place a 5-star rating as far as the quality, the cleanliness, the organization, and the kindness that you bestow on these animals.
We enjoy talking about alpacas, and it's probably obvious that alpacas are a major part of our lives. But we really enjoy talking with people and evangelizing a bit about alpacas and the alpaca business. But, you know, more so, we enjoy helping people. I mean, there's a lot of people that want to get started in the business, and it's just not appropriate. There are other people that are serious, would like to be breeding alpacas. Other people that would just like to have a few alpacas around on their ranch. So there's lots of ways that people can be involved in alpaca life, and we're happy to help them any way we can.
Okay, perfect. All right, well, this is Sue Slivick, along with these wonderful people from Oak Valley Alpaca. They're located right here in Valley Springs, and I've had a great time. Thank you so much. Very interesting, and love the tour.
Great. Thanks for coming.
This is Sue Slivick with Foothill Critters, sharing again more great little critters here in the foothills. See you next time.
Foothill Critters is show for and about local pets, farm animals, and wildlife of our foothill community have been proudly brought to you in part by the...
Hey, Critter, let me do that part.
Oh yeah, okay, it's your part anyway.
By the Feed Barn Country Store, locally owned and operated for more than 30 years. By Jeff Home and Auto Center, a name you can trust for 28 years and growing. And by Sierra Hearth and Home, your certified specialists for water gardens, ponds, and waterfalls.